So I've had a really hard time finishing this review, which is why it's coming out so long after the Princeton review, and I think I figured out why. When I think about the Chekov, I just feel nothing. Nothing positive, nothing negative. It's just this black hole that absorbs any interest I might have in the ship. And I had a little bit of an epiphany about this, which is that the battle for Wolf 359 is a very significant event in Star Trek canon. It's very important to Picard's character development. It was important for Riker's character development. It set the stage for a lot of the events that happened. It ended up being important for Sisko's character development as well. There's lots of reasons why fans of Star Trek might gravitate towards the Battle of Wolf 359 as this sort of really interesting event that we should care about. But none of the reasons why we might care about that as an event have anything to do with the ugly kit-bashed ships that were in the background made by overworked producers with limited resources and limited time. What really does the Springfield bring to Star Trek if it didn't exist? It didn't get its own unique special design. It looks like it has a Galaxy-class saucer on it. It's not particularly attractive. And for the refresh, the modern skin that you're seeing on the screen, they made it kind of look like the Equinox. In fact, when I was going to my ship manager to pick up the ship so I could start playing with it and forming my opinions for the review, I accidentally clicked on the Equinox because the little tiny icons looked similar to each other. And it just lacks originality. There's just no personality. It's just so boring. Why would I care about this ship at all? And the same problem was with the Princeton. In fact, it's the same problem for all these ships. The two that people seem to really care about are the Atlantis because of how good the stats are, and the Ahawani for how quirky it is and how good the accessory package is. And then people do talk about the Princeton, but only so they can dog on it. But I don't hear anything about the Chekov. People will usually say something like, oh man, they really dropped the ball on the Princeton. I'm going to use my 2 ship tokens on the Atlantis and the Ahawani. And they just kind of don't mention the Chekov at all. It's weird. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually ended up being the ship people bought the least, because no one seems to care about it. And it's not because it's a bad ship. It's a good ship. Now, I think they made a mistake by releasing the Verne, because no ship since then has really been able to compete for people who care about maximum exotic damage performance. But as long as you're willing to do Sci-Torp to take advantage of the fixed Lieutenant Commander tactical seat, then you could put a very strong build on here. The engineering seat has temporals, so you don't have to put any engineering abilities on it you don't want to, and the rest of the seating is universal, so you can get pretty close to what you might use the Verne for a Sci-Torp build. It's going to be a good performer, there's no doubt about that. It's probably one of the better performing science ships in the C-Store, so I can't knock it for that. But so what? If you really, really care about doing EPG stuff, you're probably just going to get a Verne. And it's in Mudd's market, so it's not as accessible, but you don't even have to gamble for that ship. Let's talk about the accessory package, which is equally uninspiring, starting with the Fusion Cutting Beam Universal Console. You do get 10% crit severity, which, as a console passive to just be able to throw on any ship, is not that bad. You also get some EPG skill, which is nice because if you're doing science stuff, you're going to want EPG. The Clicky has a 180-degree firing arc, and it makes this beam of energy for 20 seconds that tracks your primary target ship and sweeps around the battlefield, damaging foes over time in a line. And it does fire damage, and it goes kind of well with the built-in weapon, the Tunneling Graviton Lance, which shoots this sort of gravity well-like beam in front of you that gathers the targets up. So what you can do is You can use the inbuilt weapon to make that a sort of gravity lance, and then you can do the console clicky. So now the enemies are all grouped up in a line. Now they're all going to be hit by the console clicky. And if you're using the revolutionary dex set, which a lot of people do for science builds, then you may have yet another clicky that will shoot in a straight line. So you do have something going on there. It's probably the most interesting thing going on the ship, but at the end of the day, it's not really enough to hold my interest. The trait, Threaded Particle Projectors, is relentlessly boring. It gives you up to 75 EPG based on your crit severity, and even if you were to max it out at 75 EPG, that's only worth about 2 points in the skill tree, and it doesn't stack. And it only lasts for 30 seconds, but it's easy to keep up because you only have to use intel or science abilities to trigger it. Still, even if it just gave a flat 75 EPG, it's hard to see how this would be super desirable, and even if it were, it's just boring. And I think that's kind of the thing about this ship. It just bores me. I suppose it's somewhat fitting then that a ship designed for the background failed to get my attention.